اللهم صل على الحبيب محمد يا ربي صل.
I think that's a challenging and interesting question. Look, here, Mohamed and I are close friends. I love Mohamed for the sake of Allah. We're in touch regularly. You know, he's my brother. There are some matters that maybe you and I don't agree on, right?
Wait, there's things that Mohamed doesn't agree
Yeah.
I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden, from my heart, to be enraged with anger and hatred towards him is vile and disgusting. That is spiritual immaturity. Like, then all of a sudden, I just want to. My whole life's work is destroying him because I differ with him on like one thing. What's going on here?
I don't like. I really think we have a problem in how the blame is not on the public. The blame is on the teachers. As far as I understand it, the Prophet ﷺ explained what Islam is, and he explained what Iman is. From the unlettered Bedouin in the desert, all the way to a PhD in philosophy, everybody can get it. It's not a very difficult discussion to have. Very single answer. It's not complicated. Nobody's going to be confused about, well, can you explain to me what does La ilaha illallah mean? Right. Or that we believe that the Quran is kalamullah. Like, it's very straightforward. But the problem comes when you have people that get too attached to their, maybe it's not even high level. It's like It's like really level 2 theology study. Like, they've just started touching on the mutun of aqidah and on fiqh. And they're starting to learn, you know, some of the creed and nuances and some differences in opinion on fiqh. And there's, I can't remember the specific name of the two psychologists it's cognitive psychologists that identified this phenomenon, which is, forget about the names. Richard Feynman doesn't like names of stuff because he said it confuses the issue. What are you talking about? These two psychologists discovered this phenomenon that when people start to study something and have just a little bit of knowledge about it, they begin to overestimate their knowledge. They start to think that they've encompassed the whole tradition, they've gotten it, this is all the discussions, and that becomes problematic further when you have somebody that's privy to a little bit of differences. Now they think they've gotten it. It's people that are very high level. We're talking like when you get to levels of people like Sheikh bin Bayya, for example. All of a sudden you see these people step back and they don't issue judgments and they just think, you know what, maybe there's something else to this matter. They start to be more aware of themselves. One of the issues I had, for example, some people don't like Imam al-Ghazali for whatever reason. So when I teach Ihya Ulum ad-Din at our community, some people object. Well, what's the objection? Oh, he was weak in hadith, he didn't know hadith, he didn't know this. What's interesting about it is that I use the Imam al-Iraqi's edition with at the bottom, he's got commentary on the hadith, and he's a muhaddith. Notice how he comments on the hadith. Whenever there's a hadith that Imam al-Iraqi doesn't know, he says, "Lam aqif alayh."
Yes, it's a very different attitude. It's a spiritual attitude.
Yeah,
it's a spiritual attitude.
Lam ajidhu. Yeah, like I didn't find it. I looked, but me, Imam al-Iraqi, didn't find it. He puts it on himself. Unlike many modern people that like to just make it, there is no origin for this hadith. Well, how do you know that?
I think for me, part of it is that ihsan, that real spirituality in some places of the world has just been taught as another subject that you just use to bash over the other guy's head. It's not the subject where you're forced to look inside yourself, deal with the ugliness that I have, pull out that junk, stare at it, and be like, wow, that is me. I need to deal with that. No, it's just this other thing that we use, just like we use usul, just like we use any of these other matters. So I think that's where part of the problem is, how spirituality is taught with the package of other knowledge. But here, this is also what I want to really get at for me. There's a time and place for everything. Given the context that we're in America and in the world, I'm not saying that some of these matters don't apply or matter for us. They do, some of these issues. But we do not have time to argue about issues of aqa'id to a certain degree when I've got this guy who wants to police neighborhoods, or I've got this other guy who wants to all of a sudden kick us all out of the country and shut down our masajid. There's a time and place for everything. It's just not there right now. Yeah, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so beautifully articulates the message or the purpose of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alayhi, that he sent a prophet, يُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيكُم, that he'll teach you knowledge, wisdom, and spiritually purify you. You can't have any one of these without the other. Too much ilm with no tazkiyah, it will lead to ruin. Tazkiyah without ilm will also lead to ruin. It's a journey, it's a cycle. They all have to be there together to be able to get somewhere.
I'll give you an example. In the Maliki school, the first text I studied was Akhdari. It's a very simple text, very small. It starts off with, he just says that the first obligation upon the one who's obligated is to tashihu imanihi. Just fix your faith, and he's literally just talking about La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Just figure out that. ومعرفة the فرض العين, which is الصلاة والصيام وما إلى ذلك. Okay. But then after that, he doesn't elaborate much on these yet. He takes a pause, and then he goes into all the ailments of the heart.
Right.
Imam al-Akhdari doesn't talk about the rule. He says, you have to fix your faith, your aqidah, your creed, which is very simple. Know the rulings of the prayer and the fasting. But then he doesn't elaborate on the rulings. He takes a pause, and then he goes into ailments of the heart.
Right into the heart.
He spends some time on that, and then he goes back again into the rulings of the prayer and stuff.
Why is that?
Well, I think it has a significance with what he placed more importance on. It's not enough. I'll give you an example. There's a hadith, very famous one, of the woman, the companions buried her. They come back to the Prophet ﷺ. They say she was a worshipper, a pastor. She's someone who gave charity. She did all these great physical acts. But they said, nobody was safe from her tongue. She was such a foul, vile person. Nobody was safe from her. And the Prophet ﷺ's answer was, لا خير فيها. There is no good in her. If your acts of worship did not translate into how your heart and your tongue is manifesting, because كل إناء بما فيه ينضح. I don't care how physically you are performing all of these things. If you're cheating, backbiting, envying, doing all of these vile things, it's not going to matter. What's interesting about this though is, after Akhdari, the next one in the line was, usually it's Ibn Ashir. Where does Ibn Ashir put Bab al-Tasawwuf? At the very end. He starts off with discussions on Aqidah, and then he goes into fiqh. And a lot of teachers, when they teach these things, people that have spent some time in traditional circles, not everybody gets to go through the whole text.
Right.
Ibn Ashir, by and large, I've seen the majority of teachers spend most of their time teaching the fiqh part. They skip over the Aqidah part, because they say whatever, it's fine. And then they go into the fiqh part, they spend a lot of time on the fiqh issues, the legal stuff, and then the spiritual part is kind of, it's like a separate course. It's not part of this.
So that's been part of the problem. And also, I think that we haven't learned how to get along as communities. We're going to have with these differences. Look, I've worked in the corporate field in the past. You're going to have a coworker who you may not like, but you have to work together with that individual to meet an objective. So you have to learn how to put aside those personal differences because your boss told you got to put this product out. So you're forced to go through that. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the brothers and sisters I see nowadays, they don't have that mindset. Because if I don't like you, I'm not going to take the time to call you and get to know you and find out what do you mean by this, or can we sit down over coffee and get to know each other on a personal level so maybe I can understand where you're coming from. That's what I think needs to happen. Mohamed and I may disagree on one particular thing, and when everyone said, "Oh, don't listen to him," no, let me get to know him. He has something interesting to say. Let me see why he's saying that thing. So a lot of that is missing as well.